Hi, Aries. This is your reading for the week of March 17th, or whenever it resonates with you. So, when I started preparing for this reading, the first thing that I started hearing was a children's rhyme. 1, 2, buckle my shoe. 3, 4, close the door. 5, 6, pick up sticks. 7, 8, close the gate. 9, 10, do it again. Now that's one version of it. There are a few, but that's the one that I was hearing. So I got the sense as I was tuning into the energy of that there was something you were working with right now in your life that involved going through steps. And I was almost seeing it as a hopscotch game, although this is not connected to hopscotch, but that was the visual I was getting. So when I look at this and I say, okay, the two combined, it feels to me as though you're counting, you're going through steps. And when I looked up the rhyme itself, it says it's a teaching song. It's learning about sequencing and numbers and how to count. So combining that with the hopscotch, it feels to me as though there is something that some of the collective is going through that is demanding procedures, okay? It's one thing at a time. Same thing in hopscotch. You land here, now you're on one foot, now you're on two, now you're on one, now you're on two. And it's that sense of being able to take things one step at a time, look at where you are and look at where you're going. And that there is this sense of, because it's children's rhymes, and a children's game, I feel as though it's very basic. What you're dealing with is basic. What does that mean exactly? It may be going back to some basic core beliefs that you've had. Thank you. Some basic core beliefs that you've had that have been influencing a lot of choices and decisions in your life up to this point. And that what you're getting a chance to do is look at them. Now, as I pulled the cards, well, look at them to see if they're still relevant, right? To whatever's going on, to whatever you're dealing with, because it feels to me right now like for who I'm reading for, there may be a specific situation that you're dealing with. When I started shuffling the cards, the first card that threw out was betrayal. For some reason, I put it back in. I wasn't sure why. Then grief came up. When I cut the cards, grief came up, which very often will sync with betrayal. So what I'm looking at here is, when I pull all the cards together, it's very much about looking at what your choices, what your judgments have been. And when I say judgments, I don't even mean in a harsh way. I mean, what have your standards been about what's good, what's right, what's okay, what's not okay, what's valuable to you, what's not valuable to you, what's life enhancing and what's life destructive. It's that quality of, either or, this and that. And so what I feel with this one is that you've been really having to look at that and which ones of those choices have caused you grief. Which one of these, by looking at these core beliefs and allowing yourself to really get into a feeling of what those core beliefs are about, are going to allow you to open your heart and decide how you want to be operating, what kind of structure you want, what kind of structure have you outgrown, what's no longer working for you, and why. And the structure might be your belief system. It might be around a specific situation that has come to a pressure point with you where you really need to evaluate these things. What you're being asked to question here is, what is painful about it? What's the nature of the pain? And are you loyal to pain? Do you feel like you can only be successful if pain is involved? Do you have to work so hard that in order to achieve that it creates pain or distress in your life? Are you only able to love if there's pain associated with it, if there's that dramatic sense of, so look at that. And you're being asked to look calmly, to focus, to bring your energy in and allow yourself just gently, one thing at a time, with a sense of gentleness, with a sense of kindness, look at things. Kindness and compassion for yourself, for whoever else is involved. But really allow yourself to settle into that and look at that and say, what's going on? What is going to serve me in reevaluating and making decisions about? And the other thing that's interesting here, I find, is that, excuse me, you're being reminded in the process of this, excuse me, when you find yourself going into struggle about it, or when you're looking at struggle. See, when you're looking at struggle, when you're looking at things that are difficult, excuse me, I need some water. Thank you. It can bring your energy down. And especially if you're looking at things in you that have been problematic for you, remember the good things too. Allow yourself to really remember that whatever else you are focusing on that is difficult, that is negative, there's a whole other aspect of you that is bright and bubbly and wonderful. And allow that energy to be there, because that quality of energy that you can carry, that you can call forth, is going to allow you to be more kind in your perception and your looking, and it's going to be more equal when you look at it. What do I mean more equal? That's not quite right. It's going to be more neutral when you look at it. It's going to be more even. You're not going to be as inclined to be extreme here or extreme there. You're going to be able to be less reactive to it and just look at what's going on. Look at the lay of the land. And as I see it now, it's like you're standing on the mesa in a desert and you're looking out over the landscape. And you're able to, from this place of feeling good about yourself, calmly focusing, looking just calmly, looking at things one thing at a time, you're going to be able to understand where, for some of you, your evaluations of what's good and what's bad has sometimes created pain and grief for you because maybe it's been too harsh. And in other cases where you have not defined clearly what is good and what is not good for you, has brought you sadness and grief. If you're currently in a structure that is creating difficulty for you, the guidance is look at it with kindness. Remember your own good qualities, but also remember the ones of others involved too, so that you can evaluate from a more centered place and you can be responsive rather than reactive, okay? If things have gotten tight, also remember sometimes whatever the situation is, whether it's an individual relationship or a job situation or just a living situation, you know, being in an apartment as opposed to being in a condo instead of being in a house, being in a city instead of being in a town. Whatever the structure is, if it's starting to feel really uncomfortable, there's something to look at. And it may be that you need to leave the structure, but it may be that you need to renegotiate the structure. It may be you still want to stay in the apartment, but you need to get yourself a pantry so you can have a more usable kitchen. Or that's a simplistic statement, but that in itself can be the kind of thing you might be going through if this energy is playing with you in a way that is just simply less dramatic because you're in a different state and a different phase of the astrological cycle, or the other components of your astrology are affecting your sign in such a way so that it's expressed differently, okay? So that's just a heads up when you're looking at this stuff to see where does it fit, how does it fit, how would that, if it's said in an extreme case about a relationship, for example, how could it apply to you in a completely different way, okay? So Aries, that's it. Take care, my dears.